All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It's April 25th. I'm John Weigell here with Mark Dent, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Dr. Pepper parent company Keurig crushed its profit estimates recently, achieving success with most of its brands, including Snapple and Ghost energy drink. This comes as the soda and snack market is hurting, with giants like Pepsi lowering its projections for the future. So how is Keurig staying ahead even after Pepsi acquired Poppi? We'll chat about that in a bit, but first, let's give you the news in business and tech. We're starting up with some big tech developments today. Microsoft is trying to handle its low performers, and by handle them, I mean either place them into an improvement program or simply just pay them to leave. Select staff received an email with this information saying they had 5 days to make a choice, either enter a program or quit and receive 16 weeks pay. Not so bad, actually. If the job market wasn't too bad, I'd consider. From there, we go to Google. Google is also lashing out against its workers for different reasons, and now they're demanding fully remote staff to relocate and come back to the office for 3 days of the week or risk being fired. And remote employees in the Google technical services specifically are being offered paid relocation expenses to move within 50 miles of a Google office. So, Mark, a lot of big tech squeezes going on here in the employment realm.
It's just been squeeze after squeeze this year. And frankly, the last couple of years when it comes to tech companies, I think that the Google one, that's been a long time coming. Getting people to just go back from remote to at least work hybrid, if not full time at the office. And I think that's a pretty good deal that they're going to offer some relocation expenses. With Microsoft, though, we've seen this headline so many times. We're going to lay off our low performing employees. And, Meta had the same announcement earlier this year.
Right.
But these sort of low performer layoffs have kind of become all the rage. There was one Meta employee who had like an editorial, I think in Business Insider.
Yeah, I remember
that was just sort of being like, I had positive reviews for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. How am I a low performing employee? And they got laid off. There's another good Business Insider story, something that I've kind of looked into, which is that layoffs do not work, period. At least the research indicates. And that's the same with these low performer layoffs. It leads to the same lower morale among the employees who are still there. It leads to job candidates being less excited to work at those places.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of reasons not to do this, but they keep doing it.
They keep doing it, and it seems like every tech company is in the interest to cut off some people from somewhere because, of course, as we mentioned on the show previously, there was that kind of mass hiring situation in 2021, and I think we're kind of still feeling the effects of it with, people were hired that aren't exactly maybe 3-4 years later as needed as they once were, or the company feels that they can slash them and save some money. So, they're both a little sad, given especially if you were at Google and if you agreed to a remote work job and to go back on that, But I think that's what they want, though. They want people to quit. They want people to get out of there if they're not about it and go to find a different company that maybe will allow a more flexible schedule in today's job market, which is difficult to do.
Yeah, exactly. You can live in Boise or you can work for Google, but you can't do both anymore, it seems like.
From there, we go to the robotaxi area. Robotaxis are going to be pretty much everywhere. Uber and Volkswagen have now partnered together to launch electric microbus robotaxi services in the United States. The company expects to have its first fleet released in Los Angeles near the end of 2026. 2026 seems like a big year for a lot of car companies. Tesla, in their earnings call earlier this week, also talked about autonomous driving vehicles being available in 2026. So next year might be the year of the robotaxi. From there, we go to McDonald's. McDonald's has just added its first permanent menu item in 4 years. So given the popularity of chicken in the fast food game nowadays, McDonald's has resurrected chicken strips named McCrispy strips. These will be available starting May 5th. And Mark, I know you and I have talked about how the beef industry isn't doing too well right now. So it would kind of make sense McDonald's pivots more towards chicken at this time.
I'm just surprised they didn't make this move earlier. I remember when they had them a few years ago. And frankly, I kind of don't understand why they got rid of them. But, now this is the move to bring them back permanently. I'm not sure if the name is a great one.
It's a kind of a mouthful.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just call them McStrips. But yeah, it is just like chicken is taking over everything. It's been a minute since I've looked at the exact numbers for chicken consumption, but it has increased by so much over the last few decades that every other type of meat or fish just pales in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, it is cheaper. So that does make a lot of sense, especially now. And then you have all these companies like Chick-fil-A, you have Raising Cane's, all these more widespread by the day fast food chains serving pretty good chicken. So I feel like all these other companies got to compete. And finally here, if you watched Conclave this week, you were one of many. The film saw a 283% spike in viewership on Amazon Prime Video, according to the data analytics firm Luminate. The film amassed 1.8 million minutes of viewing on April 20th and saw 6.9 million minutes on April 21st following the death of Pope Francis. Maybe I got to check it out now.
You do, John. It's a good movie.
I never even heard of it. Nobody I know has told me about it, so you're the first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was nominated for Best Picture.
Okay.
Great performance by Ray Fiennes. Yeah, fantastic movie.
Okay, I'll check it out. Okay, on to our main story today. The snack and soda industry has been experiencing an overhaul for a while. However, Keurig, parent company to Dr. Pepper, Snapple, and others, seems to be riding a high comparatively. So first off here, Mark, how is the soda and snack market faring as a whole right now?
Not very well right now. I'm not sure if it's necessarily going to be a leading indicator of a recession, but for me at least, I remember reading a story in the Wall Street Journal last month, and it was like a red light started flashing in my head that was like, okay, the economy may not be doing so well. Circana shared some data with the WSJ showing that convenience store sales were down substantially, about 4% year over year in February, which meant that people were just buying far fewer items like, snacks, cigarettes, chips, soda, the kind of stuff you get at a gas station convenience store, which is bad for a lot of companies like PepsiCo, which is not just Pepsi, it's also Frito-Lay and a lot of those kind of snack brands.
Right.
And also bad for gas stations, of course, too, because, they get a lot of their revenue from those purchases rather than from just gasoline. So it is a really tough time out there to be a soft drink company on a number of fronts.
It is. Yeah. The convenience store problem does set off alarm bells. I've always viewed convenience stores as like the lifeblood of American culture, especially in states that don't have like a big city like Los Angeles. And to see that prices are rising in a lot of them is really deterring people from going in and actually buying something.
Seriously,
From this story in Wall Street Journal that you sent me, seems like people are going in to get the gas, get the exact essential that they need, and leaving because of all this inflation trouble that we've been experiencing over the past few years, and now the tariff trouble. From there, that's a bad sign. But also, Pepsi's feeling this on a deeper level. At least the data that we got from Reuters, PepsiCo has cut its annual profit forecast because of tariffs, and they've kind of missed their profit estimates as of late. So this definitely does not help the situation, the tariffs, but Pepsi seems to be specifically in a pretty tough spot.
Well, its stock tumbled 5% yesterday on news that they were not going to make any more money this year than they did last year. They said that in constant dollars, i.e. accounting for inflation, that they'd essentially make the same amount this year as last year. That's not what people want to hear. Certainly not what investors want to hear. And yeah, part of the reason for that is tariffs. It goes without saying that soda consumption is in a significant decline.
Yes.
Especially if you take out some of those newer drinks like Poppy and whatnot. And this isn't so much something that I think they're going to see on the balance sheets just yet, but they're going to have to start doing some more work, PepsiCo, particularly with Mountain Dew, because the federal government is moving to phase out some of these food dyes, such as like Yellow 5.
Yeah.
Now, some of these soft drink companies, they make their beverages without those additives, in different countries. But nevertheless, they're going to have to like rejigger a lot of their recipes here in the US once those bans end up happening. So there's just a lot of headwinds out there for soda companies.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not to mention the health benefits associated with, not drinking soda and the things that it does to your health. And consumers seem today a lot more health conscious than they were 10 years ago, especially on the soda front, which is why you'd think Pepsi buying a company like Poppi would help solve that situation. Obviously, we're early days with that, so not exactly solved yet or anywhere near so. But given all this information, soda not so good for you, dyes are getting banned, the snack industry is down, convenience stores are down. Keurig, Dr. Pepper, Snapple seem fine. So what makes them okay right now? What makes them in a good position?
Well, its first quarter sales were up about 5%, which again, just is quite different than what Pepsi has experienced and what it's predicting. And I think a large part of the reason is that Dr. Pepper has just kind of become a sensation on social media over the last couple of years. To me, at least, it's the soft drink that's like most associated with like a dirty soda.
Right.
Maybe this is just me, but you don't make a dirty soda out of Pepsi. You just, no don't do that. It just doesn't sound right. I don't know. And then, there was like a trend, I think it was last year with like pickles and Dr. Pepper that really took off.
Right.
Dr. Pepper has had a new flavor, strawberries and cream, that it has made permanent. You've seen some other companies like Coke trot out these new flavors that haven't been very successful. But Dr. Pepper's just been, I think, showing some ingenuity, unlike maybe some of the other brands.
Yeah.
Last year, which was big news at the time, last summer, Dr. Pepper surpassed Pepsi to officially become the second most popular soft drink in the US.
Yeah, I think, a lot of it has to do with that popularity that you referenced on social media and kind of its attachment or brand value to Gen Z or Gen Alpha or younger customers, because I see Dr. Pepper in this industry a lot like we've talked about seeing Chili's in kind of the fast casual dining industry, where sure, it's kind of lumped in with the rest, like you have your Cokes, you have your Pepsis, but at the same time, there's just something about it that's really striking a chord on social media. They're doing a really good job and they're really speaking to those younger generations. And suddenly they're kind of in business in a pretty dying breed right now.
Yeah. Goodbye, Pepsi generation. Hello, Dr. Pepper generation.
That's right. Yeah. And they're also doing big with energy drinks. Energy drinks is another category that's growing a lot. And they have this energy drink called Ghost, which I've also never heard of before today. But, picturing it as the same line as Monster, but Keurig bought a 60% stake in Ghost in October. So that's been helping them as well. Seems like good marketing, good branding, and really trying to reach the youths.
Yeah, this is just going to sound cliche, but it's like sometimes good execution gets good results.
That's the Mark Dent tagline right there.
Yeah.
All right, and that'll do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of HubSpot Media. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a ton more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go sign up at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We will see you Monday.